I never imagined a billionaire would witness a dance that changed everything. I will never forget the day everything fell apart. It was supposed to be just another performance. The laughter, the thrill of the crowd, my heart racing like wild horses. But that night, under the glittering lights, something shifted. I stood on that stage, feeling the cool wood beneath my bare feet. The silence before the first note hit like a sledgehammer. My stomach twisted. I could hear breaths held tightly, hearts thumping, just as mine was. The audience, a mix of hopeful dreamers and elite moneymakers, seemed to hold the weight of the world. And then I danced. I poured every piece of my soul into each movement. The world swirled around me, the scent of fresh paint, the flickering chandeliers, the gasps that erupted as I twirled faster. But then, in the corner of my eye, I spotted him. The billionaire. No one really knew why he was here, a figure draped in shadows, but there he was, watching with eyes that pierced like daggers straight to my heart. His presence crackled like electricity in the air, a tension that made everything around us grow still. I felt exposed, vulnerable, as if the very fabric of my existence was laid bare before him. In the midst of my dance, I noticed my best friend, Lena, in the crowd, her face a canvas of support and fear. She'd always been my rock. With her fiery red hair and warm smile, she breathed life into my doubts. But now, alarm flared in her eyes. I locked onto her gaze, searching for the comfort I desperately needed. The music swelled, an emotional crescendo, and I let my body give in to the rhythm. It was a dance of freedom, yet there was something haunting about it, an urgency that resonated deeply within me. I sensed a storm brewing, but I couldn't stop. Each step drew me deeper into a web of uncharted feelings. But then, everything shifted. A sudden gasp, a murmured secret, rippled through the crowd. I stumbled mid-spin, my heart racing faster than the beats of the music. The billionaire leaned forward, his face a mask of intrigue. In that moment, I felt the ground beneath me tremble. What had I unleashed? Lena's face deepened in worry. "You have to stop," she mouthed, but I didn't know what she meant. My breath hitched, a lump forming in my throat. The world started to blur. I was in freefall. And just as I reached for the final pose, the lights flickered ominously. Silence shattered the space. I held my breath, freezing in place, taking in my surroundings. All eyes were on the billionaire, his expression shifting from curiosity to something darker. A whisper echoed through the room. "He knows." I stepped back, my heart dropping like a stone. What did he know? Did my dance truly change everything? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The silence surged, suffocating in its intensity, moments stretching into eternity. Every eye in the room felt glued to the billionaire, and my mind raced with questions I dared not articulate. The faint sound of my heartbeat echoed in my ears as confusion twisted my insides. Lena was still watching, her expression morphing from concern to alarm as she desperately gestured for me to leave the stage. But how could I? The music had halted, the audience was electric with anticipation, and I stood frozen under the weight of 1,000 gazes. I felt the heat of embarrassment creep up my neck, intertwining with the threads of fear that wove through my thoughts. What had I done? What did he know that I didn't? Then, breaking the suffocating tension, the billionaire shifted in his seat. He stood, and the action caught everyone off guard, causing a collective intake of breath. His dark hair fell across his forehead, and there was a raw intensity in his eyes that sent shivers down my spine. From afar, he looked imposing, but there was an underlying softness, an understanding that whispered of shared struggles. I hadn't anticipated this. "My apologies," he said smoothly, his voice deep and resonant, floating over the hushed crowd. "I didn't mean to disrupt. There's just something so familiar about this performance." He locked eyes with me, and I felt unnerved, every nerve in me tingling with an urgency I couldn't explain. "It's as if you speak a truth that's long been buried." His words hung in the air, sizzling with acknowledgement. Redirected energy pulsed through the room, turning startled silence into palpable curiosity. I clenched my fists, battling between the urge to flee from this unexpected intensity or to step forward, to unveil the truth hiding beneath my emotions like a treasure map waiting to be followed. Desperate to regain my composure, I took a deep breath, the cool air filling my lungs like a promise. I looked over at Lena, still watching, still cheering me on, with a fervent nod that ignited a flicker of bravery inside me. I stepped forward, the floor firm beneath my feet again. "What do you mean?" I dared to ask, my voice barely above a whisper but steady enough to hold the billionaire's gaze. A wry smile played on his lips, a mixture of mischief and sincerity. "You dance not just with your body, but with your spirit. There's a sorrow in your movements, an untold story that refuses to reside in the shadows any longer. I am drawn to it. To you." The audience leaned in, suspended between admiration and intrigue. This was no longer just my performance, it was an exploration of open wounds, fears, and aspirations laid bare for judgment. Yet here he stood, a stranger turning my vulnerabilities into something beautiful, something powerful. The lights flickered again, sending ripples of unease through the crowd, and the sound of anxiety was palpable as a murmur escaped the audience, shifting towards uncertainty. "Are you all right?" Lena mouthed to me, her eyes reflecting a flicker of worry I couldn't ignore. But just as I summoned the courage to respond, the fire alarm blared across the building, piercing through the fabric of the moment. Chaos erupted. Shadows danced wildly as the lights dimmed, and a flashing strobe pulsed through the room. The crowd surged, panic setting in as people scrambled towards the exits, unable to comprehend what was unfolding. I barely registered Lena's shout as she leaped from her seat to reach me. I felt a rush of wind, the air turbulent, as a guard surged forward, ushering everyone outside. But my feet felt rooted to the ground, wavering between fear and an inexplicable desire to stay just a heartbeat longer. "Come on." Lena's voice cut through the chaos, a lifeline in the darkness. And then, as if fate had struck like lightning, I caught the billionaire's gaze one last time. He stepped toward me with purpose, reaching out as if the world around us had faded to black. "You can't let them silence your truth," he whispered urgently, and in that fleeting moment, before chaos swallowed us both, I felt a connection that burrowed deep into my heart. With that, everything spiraled. I was pulled from the stage and thrust into the tumult of the crowd, pushed towards the door alongside Lena. Fear and confusion collided in my mind, but deep down, I recognized that whatever storm awaited us outside had already begun, and whatever truths lay hidden within me could no longer remain buried. "Why did you stop me?" I barely managed to catch her gaze, my voice trembling against the cacophony. Lena's face was pale, but an ember of bravery flickered within her. "Because I didn't want you to fade into that chaos alone. You deserve to be seen." As we stumbled outside into the night, past the throngs of panicked faces, I looked back one last time. The billionaire, an enigma wrapped in shadows, stood resolute, separating himself from the chaos, his eyes still fixed on me, holding promises and secrets I yearned to understand. The world around me began to blur again, but this time, it felt different. There was a spark, a possibility hidden in the depths of the unknown. Yet, I couldn't shake the sense of foreboding, a whisper telling me this was only the beginning. Then, Just as I was about to turn away, I spotted a figure emerging from the shadows behind the billionaire. My heart dropped once more. It was someone familiar yet unexpected, someone who held the power to shatter everything I believed in. And in that moment, I knew the stakes were higher than I could have fathomed. The truth was closer than ever, but so was the danger it carried with it. My breath came in rapid bursts as the chaos swirled around us. We were on the street now, cool night air wrapping around me like a balm against the lingering heat of the stage. I locked eyes with Lena, who was scanning the crowd for familiar faces, her anxiety palpable. What just happened? I managed to gasp, still grappling with the reality that I was no longer under those glaring lights, no longer the sole focus of that electric attention. Lena's fingers gripped my arm tightly. I don't know, but we need to get away from here. Let's find a safe place, she urged, leading me away from the flowing tide of panicked bodies. My heart raced, but with each step, I felt a different kind of urgency, a pulse that spoke to the very core of my being, a nagging feeling that some unseen force tugged me towards something I couldn't yet understand. As we rounded the corner, I caught sight of a coffee shop with its warm glow spilling onto the sidewalk, inviting and comforting. Over there, I exclaimed, pointing it out to Lena. We darted inside just as the commotion faded into the distance behind us. The rhythmic hiss of the espresso machine and the aroma of freshly baked pastries wrapped us in a cocoon of normalcy. We found an empty booth in the corner, the muffled conversation around us grounding me in the here and now. I sank into the faux leather seat, breathing deeply while trying to process everything that had just transpired. My mind kept returning to that moment on stage, the impact of the billionaire's words. Did you see how he looked at me, Lena? It felt like he saw right through me. Lena's brow furrowed in thought. Yeah, it was intense. Do you think he was genuine? Or was it just a show? She searched my face, trying to read the whirlwind of emotions swirling behind my eyes. I don't know, I whispered, emotions welling up, threatening to spill over. But I felt something. Something important. And then chaos hit. I don't want to go back to being invisible. That's why you need to own it, Lena replied, her voice steady, the fierce glow of loyalty illuminating her eyes. Don't let this moment slip away. You have a gift, and it's time to use it. Be bold. Her encouragement should have ignited a fire within me, but instead, uncertainty washed over me. The sense of danger lingered in the back of my mind, thick like fog. Just then, a shadow shifted in the corner of the cafe, and I turned instinctively, my heart pounding as an all-too-familiar figure emerged, towering and unmistakable. Not quite the reflection of the future I expected, but certainly interesting, he said, his voice smooth yet laced with an edge. It was him, the billionaire. I recognized that penetrating stare, the one that had seen through layers of self-doubt and dread on that stage. Why are you here? I blurted out, a combination of defiance and fear sparking within me. His presence sent a shiver down my spine. He smirked, his confidence unwavering. I followed you. I wanted to make sure you were all right after the fire alarm, he admitted, glancing towards Lena before returning his attention to me. But I see that chaos is your haven tonight. We have much to discuss, and it seems you've already found a partner in resilience. Lena tensed next to me, protective instincts surfacing. What do you want from her? She asked, her voice filled with a hint of defiance. His gaze shifted to Lena, assessing her with a mixture of intrigue and amusement. I want to understand the truth behind that dance. What lengths are you willing to go to claim your story? How do you know about my story? I asked, bewildered. Had he been watching me all along, piecing together fragments of my life from a distance? Enough to know there's depth beneath the surface. He took a seat opposite me, his presence commanding the space like a force of nature. I built my life on understanding how to adapt and survive in a world that thrives on facade. But with you, I see potential for something far more profound. His words sliced through me, awakening a longing to be more than I had ever allowed myself to be. But with that longing came apprehension. What does that mean? I asked cautiously, unsure whether to lean into his offer or retreat into the safety of anonymity. He leaned closer, intensity radiating from him. It means we can help each other. You could take your dance beyond the stage, tell your story without restriction. A flicker of excitement traveled through me, but it was quickly overshadowed by skepticism. In return, you'd help me understand a world I struggle to connect with. Why would you need me? I whispered, grappling with the enormity of what he was proposing. Because, despite the enormity of my fortune, I've lost sight of what truly matters. I want to feel again, he replied, vulnerability slipping into his tone. I felt my resolve waver. What was I stepping into? Just as I began to process his words, a sudden commotion erupted outside the cafe. Startled, we all turned towards the window, where I saw shadows moving erratically, figures shrouded in darkness. Then came the unmistakable shout. There they are! Panic flooded my veins as a wave of dread crashed over me. The chaos from earlier wasn't over, it had merely paused to regroup. I shot a glance at Lena, whose eyes mirrored my fear. We had barely escaped once, but could we manage it again? And then the billionaire spoke, his expression transforming from suave charm to grim determination. You need to trust me now. Follow my lead. The weight of our choices settled on my shoulders, and with the shadows closing in, I knew that whatever path lay ahead was riddled with uncertainty. Yet, as I exchanged glances with Lena and the enigmatic billionaire, I realized one undeniable truth. I could no longer run from my story. The stakes were dangerously high, but perhaps, just perhaps, in this whirlwind of chaos, I could finally find my voice. The bell above the cafe door chimed eerily, as we stepped back into the frenetic world outside. The towering figure of the billionaire stood in front of me, his body positioned as a shield, blocking the path of the impending mayhem. Heart racing, I could barely grasp the gravity of the moment. The shadows were all around us, moving like whispers on the wind, carrying dread like a disease. Run! He shouted, and something in his voice ignited an instinctual fire within me. I grabbed Lena's hand, adrenaline surging through my veins, and we broke into a sprint. We darted down an alleyway, the footsteps of the crowd pounding on the pavement behind us like the beats of a war drum. My mind raced, teetering on the edge of panic, but something about the billionaire's presence anchored me. I couldn't quite pinpoint why, but the way he commanded the situation felt right. We ducked behind a dumpster, our breaths coming out in hurried gasps, trying to listen for any sign that the coast was clear. Lena cast me a worried glance, her eyes wide and glistening with the remnants of fear. What now? She whispered, the grit of survival lacing her tone. Just give me a moment, the billionaire answered, his voice low but assertive, his eyes scanning the darkness. I could see the gears working in his mind, a puzzle being pieced together. We need to find a way out of this. Stick close. Who are they? I asked, my heart pounding relentlessly. The question tumbled out like a stone, heavy with anxiety. His gaze flicked to me, and for a split second, I caught a glimpse of vulnerability, almost as if he was weighing how much he wanted to share. Old acquaintances, he replied, his jaw tense. They don't understand the world we're navigating. It'll explain everything when we're safe. I nodded, but sorrow curled tight in my chest, thinking of the world I'd barely begun to grasp. My dreams felt tantalizingly close, yet here I was, running through the shadows like a hunted creature. What had begun as a night celebrating life and art had spiraled into a swirling abyss. Deep down, I knew this was more than just an escape, it was an awakening. After what felt like an eternity, we crept out from our hiding spot and into a side street, the original commotion fading behind us. A sense of relief washed over me, but it was short-lived. The billionaire paused, face tense, and turned to face us. I need to know if you can keep going. This isn't just about evading them. It's about redefining everything. Are you in this with me? His eyes bore into mine, an urgent plea mixed with a weight of expectation. I could feel Lena's presence beside me, lending me the courage I so desperately needed. We've come this far, I admitted, hesitant but more resolute than I had ever felt. I won't turn back now. Not when I finally feel like I might have a chance to push through. A ghost of a smile flickered across his lips, and for the first time, I felt as if he might genuinely want to help me as we shared this fragile, uncertain journey together. But before I could indulge in that thought, an unsettling realization washed over me. What if he was leading me not just towards my destiny, but also into a deeper peril? The heaviness was palpable in the air, laden with unspoken truths. Enough with the sentimental talk. Just go, a voice called from the shadows, penetrating the vulnerable space that had formed around us. Anger flashed through me, the chaos of the previous moments coiling into a tight ball of bravado within. I turned to face the emerging figure, heart pounding. It was a woman, her silhouette sharp against the flickering streetlight, eyes glinting with menace. You have no idea what you're getting into, dancing girl. Someone like you doesn't belong in this world. I am not just a dance, I shot back, fueled by a surge of defiance, but doubt tainted my conviction. Then prove it, she sneered, stepping closer, almost close enough for me to see the glimmer of malice in her gaze. We're not safe yet. You think following him will protect you? The likes of him always toss people aside once they're done. Enough. The billionaire stepped forward protectively, inadvertently causing Lena to inch closer to me, squeezing my hand tightly. She's with me, and if you want to threaten her, you'll have to go through me. Their eyes locked, a heated clash of wills that sent a shiver down my spine. Fear and adrenaline twisted within me, and I could feel the walls of my world beginning to shrink. What if I truly had stepped into a territory rife with darkness? A world of shadows and deception, wrapped up in wealth and power that I hardly understood. Just then, a loud crash echoed behind the figure, and I turned to see a group rushing towards us from the alley we had just escaped, a sea of faces brimming with fury and urgency. There they are! Get them! Someone shouted. Panic surged through me, and I felt the heat of impending chaos once more. This was a moment that could bind our fates together in unforgiving ways. What the hell do we do? I asked, voice trembling. Run! The billionaire commanded, his tone filled with finality. Together. Trust me. As we bolted down the street, Lena and I clutching each other fiercely, while the billionaire propelled us forward. Uncertainty engulfed me like a cloak. And in that moment, the lines between fear and hope blurred, a tumultuous maelstrom brewing within. The path ahead was wrought with danger, and yet, deeper than the shadows stalking us, I felt the flicker of determination hardening in my chest. Perhaps this was the fight I had been waiting for all along, a desperate battle not just for survival, but for the very essence of who I was meant to become. As we rounded the corner and dashed into the night, the relentless pursuit behind us echoed through the air, and with every step, I realized I was not merely on the verge of discovering my story, I was becoming it. But as doubt loomed larger than the shadows, the question hung heavily over us all: would I be able to dance my way out before it was too late? The street narrowed into a dimly lit tunnel, the dilapidated walls soaked in the scent of dampness and decay. My pulse quickened, each heartbeat thundering in my ears as we raced forward, the echoes of our pursuers edging closer. The billionaire led the way, his strides purposeful, while Lena and I stumbled behind, fueled by a mix of adrenaline and growing fear. Where are we going? I cried out, desperate for direction in the haze of uncertainty. Just hold on. There's a safe house I know nearby, he shouted back, his voice steadier than I felt. As we rounded a corner, I caught a glimpse of our reflection in a broken window, a frail image of desperation and determination. A million thoughts collided in my mind, battling for dominance. Yet, amidst the chaos, something deep within me whispered to push forward, that there was a purpose to all of this. My instinct screamed in the silence that followed, an unsettling calm settling over the space. Suddenly, a gust of wind swept through the tunnel, carrying with it the rush of footsteps that fueled our fear. We dashed back into the open, the night wrapping around us like an embrace. But it felt too close. We veered into an unmarked door, barely managing to shut it before the cacophony outside spilled into the air like an angry tide. The billionaire pressed his back against the door, eyes scanning the pitch black, his breath ragged. Lena and I huddled against the wall, hearts thundering in unison, and I could feel her trembling beside me. "Are we safe?" she whispered, her voice barely audible, the vulnerability slicing through me. "For now," he replied, trying to catch his breath. A flicker of regret passed over his face, as if he bore the weight of unknown consequences. "But I need to know. You both need to know. This isn't just about evading danger. It's about standing tall against it." "What do you mean?" I asked, my throat dry as the words escaped me. His gaze softened for a moment, and I saw something raw there, a glimmer of empathy behind the walls he erected. "What you both witnessed tonight isn't just an external conflict. It's the embodiment of what you've been running from all your lives. Fear, judgment, isolation, but you don't have to face it alone." The words lingered in the air, stretching like string pulled to its breaking point. It was a sentiment that felt achingly hopeful and painfully disconcerting. You're not the only one who feels out of place, who struggles against the currents of their past. I met his gaze defiantly, searching for inconsistencies, for the facade he had spun. "Is that why you helped me? To mold me into some replicate of your ideal?" "No," he replied fiercely, a spark of indignation rising in him. "You're much more than that. You dance with a passion that challenges the shadows. But to embrace that light, you'll also need to confront your fears, especially the ones we bury tonight." His words settled heavy in the space between us. Memories flooded me, moments of scorn on the dance floor, whispers that questioned my place in a world that felt so foreign. Suddenly, the night's chaos washed over me, its chaos melding with those old wounds. Could I really find strength in all this uncertainty? Before I could respond, Lena squeezed my hand, grounding me. "Want to know a secret?" she whispered, the corners of her mouth lifting. "I wouldn't trust anyone more than you. You're the bravest person I know." The sincerity in her words shone like a beacon, and though fear still hung over us, it felt less suffocating. "And what if we fail?" I asked, my vulnerability peeking through. "Then that's a step we take together," she replied, so filled with conviction that I couldn't help but breathe deeper. Hope, fragile yet tenacious, flickered between us like a candle in a storm. Just then, a loud crash reverberated through the door as our pursuers slammed against it, their intentions clear. "We know you're in there." A voice called out with a confidence that sent shivers through my spine. "Come out and surrender, and maybe we'll let you leave. Running would just make it worse for you." The billionaire straightened, brow furrowing in concentration, but there was a flicker of determination igniting behind his eyes. "I won't let them take you," he said, gripping the handle of the door as the chaos intensified outside. "Wait. What if we made a plan instead of waiting to be cornered?" I suggested, my mind racing. "There must be another way out." "A back door?" Smart thinking, the billionaire acknowledged, a hint of admiration in his voice. "We can't just sit around waiting for them to force their way in. Follow my lead." My heart soared with renewed energy. I took a deep breath, pushing past the weight of fear gripping my insides. Together we could navigate this darkness. Together perhaps we could reclaim the life that had slipped through our fingers. But before we could move, a loud bang echoed through the door, shaking its frame, sending shards of uncertainty coursing through my veins. The sounds of voices grew louder, chaos closing in on us, a tempest ready to consume. It's now or never, he said, his demeanor shifting, ready to fight. A wave of adrenaline coursed through me, my resolve solidified by the beating of my heart. I turned to Lena, her eyes wide yet burning with shared determination, reminding me that we were in this moment together. Ready? Always, she replied, her words igniting the fire within me. With one last glance at the billionaire, I nodded, and together we stepped toward the door, hearts pounding as we prepared to face whatever lay beyond, knowing that the real danger might not only be waiting outside, but also within the depths of the shadows we had yet to confront. The door held for a heartbeat longer, as if it was caught in a moment of hesitation, the last refuge between light and darkness. As the echo of our resolute decision vibrated through the air, the door gave way, splintering beneath the weight of anger that surged from the outside. We tumbled into the night, propelled by fear and the unknown. A flurry of motion surrounded us, the flickering street lamps casting shadows that danced like phantoms. The billionaire dashed ahead, leading the charge, his form obscured by the veil of tumult. I felt Lena beside me, her breath synchronized with mine, an unspoken understanding binding us tighter than ever. Split up, he ordered without looking back, a mixture of urgency and strategy threading through his voice. Regroup at the abandoned warehouse on 5th. It's our best chance. In the chaos that spilled around us, smashes, yells, and the clang of heavy footsteps, me instincts kicked in. Without thinking, I grabbed Lena's hand, a lifeline in the storm. This way, I shouted, leading her away from the melee, knowing my own fear could drive us into deeper shadows if I hesitated. As we darted through darkened streets, the chill of night seeped into our bones, but the warmth of our shared trust propelled us forward. Each footfall felt like a heartbeat echoing in unity. We turned corners, hearts racing, until the sounds of pursuit faded into the fabric of the city. Finally, we skidded to a halt, breathless and trembling in the shadows of a narrow alley next to a crumbling brick wall. Tall buildings loomed around us, their silhouettes stark against the night sky. We leaned against the cold brick, trying to catch our breath, adrenaline coursing through us. Did we lose them? Lena gasped, her eyes darting around, filled with both panic and the slightest glimmer of hope. For now, I replied, but doubt seeped into my voice. We need to keep moving. Why did you grab my hand? She asked quietly, her tone masking vulnerability with curiosity. I hesitated, that unnameable tension threading through our connection. Because I didn't want to lose you, I admitted, surprising even myself. You're stronger than you know, and I couldn't do this without you. Her expression softened, a flicker of gratitude brushing across her features. I feel the same way. The moment enveloped us in something tender amidst the turmoil. But before we could explore the comfort further, distant shouts tore through the quiet, pulling us back to reality. Suddenly, I felt that familiar tightness in my chest, the haunting echoes of the past returning to haunt the present. Every time something good happens, it feels like the shadows are right behind us, waiting to pounce, I murmured, almost to myself. Lena's hand squeezed mine. But we're not alone now. We can face them together. Fighting to hold back tears, I nodded, finding strength in her belief. It was a small consolation, a glimmer of light against the encroaching darkness. Okay, we should move, I urged, reluctantly breaking our connection but feeling its warmth linger like a precious ember. We crept through the alley, emerging into a side street where a sense of surreal calm settled, contrasting sharply with the chaos we'd just left behind. My heart still raced, but the continuous pulse of hope thrummed beneath the surface, a promise of resilience pushing us along. As we approached an old warehouse, I caught sight of movement, not the billionaire, but a figure lingering by a flickering lamppost. My heart sank. It felt like an omen, unsettling and mage-like. Wait, over there, I whispered, pulling Lena back just as the figure stepped into the light. I trailed off, squinting into the dim light. The hood slipped back, revealing a face that felt all too familiar, someone from my past I never thought I'd see again. "Emily?" the figure called softly, looking every bit like a ghost returning from the dead. Hope and dread intertwined within me, stealing my breath, an emotional cocktail that threatened to drown me. "What are you doing here?" I gasped, caught between disbelief and longing. "There's so much I need to explain." "You need to trust me," she urged, stepping closer. But as I searched her eyes, I found both recognition and an unfamiliar shadow lurking there. Lena glanced between us, the tension palpable. "This is not the time for remembering past mistakes," she interjected, ever the realist in our tangled lives. But Emily was stepping forward, voice trembling with urgency. "No, you don't understand. It's dangerous. What you're involved in, they're coming for you all." The weight of her revelation settled in, a chilling reminder of the fallout that still loomed over us. Just as I thought I could grasp the safety of our moment, the shadows deepened once more, ready to tear us apart. "Who's coming?" I demanded, half dreading the answer. But before Emily could respond, the rumble of engines broke through the night, headlights piercing the darkness like a piercing scream, a tempest approaching, dragging all my fears from the depths. "Run!" I shouted. The growing roar of danger engulfed us, and the fragile thread of safety disintegrated into the night. We were no longer merely running from shadows. We were hurtling toward a confrontation that would force us to face our greatest fears had destiny fought for, bared raw in the moonlight. As we sprinted into the unknown, I couldn't shake the feeling that within Emily's revelation lay a truth destined to change everything. The cold air bit at our skin, urgency fueling every stride as we raced away from the thunderous roar of engines behind us. My heart thumped in my chest, a primal rhythm rising above the chaos surrounding us. Lena's grip on my hand felt impossibly strong, anchoring me amidst the swirling storm of uncertainty. "Where do we go?" Lena panted, her eyes wide with adrenaline and fear. The warehouse faded in the distance, a faded relic of previous hopes laid to rest. "I don't know," I shouted back, the frustration mingling with panic. "We need to find somewhere safe, somewhere we can think." The echoing roar of the vehicles grew louder, punctuated by a harsh blare of horns that split the night air. A light swept along the street behind us, a spotlight cutting through the shadows, a stark reminder that our time was running out. Lena pulled me toward a narrow alleyway, the deepened darkness offering a temporary refuge. We ducked inside, hearts pounding like drums, the sound almost drowning out the engines echoing in the distance. The alley was littered with trash and flickering neon signs, a stark reminder of the city weaved in chaos. Yet, for a split second, as we paused to catch our breath, something shifted. "Do you hear that?" Lena whispered, her brow furrowed. Straining my ears over the cacophony, I realized that the rumbling engines were fading just slightly. "They're stopping," I breathed, a flicker of hope igniting within me. "But why?" Before I could muse further, a sudden clamor echoed from the mouth of the alley leading to the street. I squinted, the shadows producing a silhouette of figures disembarking from vehicles. Instinctively, I pressed Lena against the wall as a swell of ominous energy rippled through me. They were heavy, their movements deliberate, a discordant melody dancing to the rhythm of fear they instilled. "Stay quiet," I murmured, feeling my pulse quicken. I turned to glance at Lena, whose eyes reflected not just fear but something deeper, a determination to face whatever nightmare awaited us. And then I saw her. A woman stepped into the glow of a street lamp, exuding a magnetic presence. Her sharp features and piercing gaze struck a chord of recognition deep within. "No way," I breathed, the world around us fading. "Emily?" Lena asked, her voice soft, incredulous. And oh, I shook my head, the feeling of dread washing over me. "Not her. It can't be." Before I could say another word, the woman advanced, confidence draping her like a cloak of undeniable power. "I see you've met my sister," she said with a strange, cold smile. Your sister? I didn't hide my disbelief. Emily stood frozen beside me, the truth dawning on her face like a storm brewing on the horizon. Indeed, the woman replied, her tone cool and calculating. You have no idea how long I've waited for this moment. My heart sank, a knot of fear twisting painfully in my chest. What do you want from us? From you? She laughed, a sound that echoed off the alley walls, piercing the tension-filled air. Oh, darling, this isn't about you. I felt Lena shift beside me, her grip tightening. Then what? She demanded, bravely stepping forward. Why are you here? To send a message, the woman's voice dripped with venomous undertones. To prove that the families have not forgotten your little rebellion. You will pay for your actions, trust me. But more importantly, she motioned toward Emily, will finally know her place. Emily's face paled, the realization slashing through her. You're working with him? She asked, her voice barely above a whisper. The woman laughed again, a sound filled with malice. Sweet little sister, you were always the naive one. I'm simply ensuring our family's legacy remains intact. The enormity of her words crashed over me like a wave, drowning out all rational thought. The implications were staggering. The very entity we had fought against was not just a faceless corporation, but a web of familial ties that united us all in this deadly game. We were pawns, but now I could feel the players emanating their energy, the threat palpably closer. But a flicker of courage began to crest despite the rising tide of despair. You'll never win, I spat, the fervor in my voice surprising even me. We won't stop until we expose you for what you are. For a fraction of a second, I thought I saw something flicker in her eyes, a hint of fear, perhaps. But then a wicked smile spread across her face, obscuring everything else. Oh, you'll try, she retorted. And I welcome the challenge. But you're too late. The game has already begun. With a swift movement, she waved her hand, and from the shadows emerged a group of figures, dark silhouettes that closed in on us with startling speed. The cold realization that escape was slipping from our fingers ignited a surge of adrenaline in my veins. We had to run, at the very air thickened with dread, pinning us in place. Go! I urged Lena, but even as I spoke, I felt a crushing sense of futility encircle us like a noose. But as we lurched into motion, desperate to break free from the encroaching darkness, I caught one more glimpse of the sister's face, the storm now behind her eyes raging with the promise of danger to come. And then we were gone, running not just from threats we could see, but into a labyrinth of choices driven by secrets yet unveiled. The stakes had risen, and just as the terrain changed beneath our feet, I knew that everything, the past, the present, and even futures I dared to dream, on a precipice, waiting for the inevitable fall. The thunder of our footsteps echoed off the bricked walls of the alley as we tore through the shadows, the threat of the sister's cruel smile still branding itself onto my memory like a scar. Lena's breath was labored, her determination casting a fragile light in the suffocating darkness surrounding us. In that moment, we were more than just fugitive. You were two souls caught in a whirlwind of betrayal, family ties snapping like brittle threads. Where do we go now? Lena gasped, each word a struggle against the tide of panic rising in her voice. Just keep running, I urged, adrenaline pumping through my veins as I glanced over my shoulder, half expecting to see the towering figures closing in on us. The city was alive with the sounds of the night, the distant hum of cars, the muffled conversations of locals, but all of it felt surreal, layered on top of the deafening chaos in our minds. We burst into a wider street, the dim glow of a street lamp illuminating the pavement ahead, and for just a moment, we were enveloped in a hush, the intensity of our flight melting away into the quietness. But that moment, like so many others, was fleeting. Look! Lena pointed to a nearby cafe, with its flickering neon sign. We could hide inside. Are you sure? I hesitated. It felt almost risky to seek shelter when danger lingered so close, yet the flicker of hope in her eyes urged me on. "Let's go." We darted inside, the bell above the door chiming softly as we crossed the threshold. The cafe was nearly empty, save for a few late-night patrons hunched over their drinks, blissfully unaware of the storm swirling just beyond their walls. I led Lena to a booth in the far corner, its plush seats inviting yet filled with an oppressive weight of uncertainty. "Stay low," I murmured, trying to catch my breath while scanning the room. Every shadow felt like a reminder that we were being chased, hunted. "We need to think." As I leaned back, a moment of stillness washed over me. I glanced at Lena, her face illuminated by the low light, and suddenly I felt a surge of something warm. It was her presence, reassuring and a lifeline amidst our chaos. "Well, figure this out," I said, not entirely believing my own words. "We have to." "You heard what she said," Lena replied, anxiety creeping back into her tone. "They're not just coming after us. They want to punish Emily for everything." "What if they find her? What if they come after us next?" My heart sank further, thinking of Emily, her bewildered face haunting me. "We won't let that happen," I asserted, but doubt dripped from my words. "We need to regroup, find a way to warn her." As Lena nodded, her eyes shifting towards the cafe counter, I felt a sudden spark ignite within me. Maybe there would be an avenue, however small, to turn this situation around. "I'll talk to the barista," I said, rising from the booth. "They might have a phone. Maybe we can reach someone." "Be careful," she warned, her eyes searching my face, trying to gauge the depths of the peril we faced. I stepped towards the counter, determination fueling my steps, but before I reached it, a familiar face made my heart freeze. Jeremy, the unassuming man who often delivered coffee to the warehouse, stood there, his tired eyes widening in disbelief. "Hey! What are you doing here?" he stammered, his voice low yet laced with concern. The normalcy of his presence was a stark contrast to the horror we had just run from. "Jeremy, we really need your help," I implored, my urgency spilling over. It's about Emily. She's in danger, and we can't let them get to her." His gaze flickered to the door, panic breaching his calm demeanor. "You have to get out of here. They might come looking for you." "I know," I whispered. "But if there's a way to reach Emily, we need to do it now." Jeremy hesitated, looking between me and the cafe's front. "There's a back exit," he said finally, leaning closer, urgency threading through his voice. "But if anything happens, you need to find me at the old place on 9th Street. I have contacts who can help." Relief washed over me, but it was quickly overshadowed by the terror of what lay ahead. "Thank you," I whispered, sincerity deepening my tone. "You have no idea how much this means." As I turned to rush back to Lena, a commotion erupted outside the cafe. My stomach dropped as I heard the unmistakable roar of engines and the screeching of tires, threads weaving themselves into the fabric of our momentary sanctuary. "Run!" Jeremy shouted, an explosive urgency propelling us forward. Lena and I bolted through the back exit, the cold night air crashing against us, reality spilling back into our lives like ink on a page. And as we emerged onto a side street, every turn and shadow seemed to conspire against us. Just when I thought we could gain some distance, another vehicle sped past, its headlights sweeping over us momentarily, illuminating Lena's face, a perfect portrait of fear mixed with resolve. But in that fleeting flash, everything shifted. There, in the back seat of the car, the unmistakable figure of Emily's sister stared back, her cold smile widening, knowing that somehow, this game was only just beginning. As the vehicle sped away, Lena gripped my hand tightly, and in that grasp, I felt the weight of our choices press down on us. We were deeper in this twisted game than we'd ever anticipated, each moment brimming with uncertainty and dread. But in that moment, the flicker of hope began to pulse once more, igniting the darkness around us with the realization that we weren't just running from our past, we were racing toward the possibility of claiming our futures. That was until I heard a soft voice behind us, barely a whisper that pierced my heart. "Help me." We turned, and my breath caught in my throat. A child stood there, alone in the shadows, eyes shimmering with fear and desperation, a chilling reminder that in this game, innocence was already caught in the crossfire. The chill of the night clung to me like a second skin as I stared into the dark eyes of the child, the world around us fading into an indistinct hum. She couldn't have been more than 8, her small frame dwarfed by the towering shadows of the buildings surrounding us. Panic surged within me, but it intertwined with an unmistakable call of compassion. "Where are your parents?" I asked, my voice barely more than a shaken whisper. I don't know," she murmured, her words tumbling out in a rush, anxiety trembling in her voice. "They left me. I was supposed to wait," but she looked over her shoulder, the fear in her expression igniting a fire deep in my chest. "Please, don't leave me." Lena's grip on my hand tightened, and for a fleeting moment, the chaotic storm of our circumstances felt insignificant compared to the raw vulnerability standing before us. Despite our own precarious situation, this child, with her bruised soul and frightened eyes, was an echo of innocence amidst the chaos of our lives. "We can't just leave her," Lena stated, her eyes reflecting the intensity of my own thoughts. "But we need to find a safe place. We can't risk being caught." "There's always a risk," I replied, aware of the bitter truth hidden in that statement. "But we can't let her be caught in this. We have to help her." I bent down, trying to bring my eyes to her level. "What's your name?" "Lily," she whispered, her small fingers twisting nervously at the hem of her oversized jacket. "I was at the park. I saw some people. They were yelling at someone, and I got scared and ran. But then I couldn't find my way back." With every word she spoke, an invisible knot tightened around my heart. My mind raced, weighing our desperate attempts to escape against our responsibility toward this child. We had barely salvaged our own lives, and yet here was another fragmented soul in need of rescue. "Okay, Lily," I said softly, determination igniting within me. "We'll help you, I promise. But we need to move fast. There's danger around us, and we need to find a safe place." "Like the cafe?" she asked, hope flickering in her eyes. "And oh, that's too risky," Lena interjected gently. "We need somewhere that won't attract attention. There's an old building nearby, an abandoned theater. We can hide there until we figure this out." With a small nod, Lily's frail hope melded into our resolve, and together we made our way through the dimly lit streets. As we walked, my mind churned, dissecting every potential threat that could emerge from the darkness. The weight of responsibility was heavy, a new layer to the overwhelming turmoil that already cocooned us. The old theater stood like a ghost of a forgotten era, a crumbled facade hinting at the splendor it once held. The door creaked ominously as we stepped inside, the air thick with dust and the scent of decay. We picked our way through the debris, clutching to each other, the fragility of our connection a beacon of light against the starkness around us. "Do you think they're coming for you too?" Lily asked suddenly, her voice cutting through the stillness, an innocent question laden with complexity. "They were mean. They hurt people. Not if we stay quiet," I replied, my voice steadier than I felt. "We're going to keep you safe, I promise." As we settled in the gloom of the theater, Lena's eyes darted toward the exit, fear etched on her features. "What if they find us?" she whispered, the weight of our situation looming larger than ever. "Well, adapt," I said, determined to project strength even as doubt clawed at my insides. "We can use this time to think, form a plan. There has to be a way out of this." But as I tried to rally our spirits, a creeping feeling took hold. The kindness extended to Lily felt like an anchor, a tether pulling us deeper into treacherous waters. The more we tried to help her, the more dangerous our situation became, and that thought made my chest tighten with anxiety. Outside, sirens pierced the air, a sinister lullaby of authority that sent shivers down my spine. The city felt alive, thrumming with danger, and in the quiet confines of our sanctuary, every moment drew lapse closer to the inevitable reckoning that hovered just beyond the embrace of our shadows. I can't hear them anymore, Lily said suddenly, her small voice tinged with concern. Are they gone? We need to stay quiet, I replied, glancing at Lena, whose wide eyes mirrored my own alarm. But then, from the far end of the theater, we heard a distinctive noise. A soft rustling, followed by deliberate footsteps echoing off the dilapidated walls. My heart raced as the unmistakable reality of our situation crashed down on me. Get back, I hissed, instinctively pushing Lily and Lena behind a crumbled wall. The footsteps echoed closer, and just when I thought we might be discovered in that fragile moment, a figure stepped into the dim light filtering through the dusty curtains. There, revealed in the shadows, was someone unexpected. Emily. With disheveled hair and frantic eyes, she was a vision of desperate determination, her very presence a beacon of hope or perhaps a harbinger of doom. Emily? I croaked, feeling a rush of conflicting emotions swirl within me. What are you doing here? But instead of answering, her gaze darted between me and the others, confusion knitting her brow. They're trying to find you. I had to come. It's worse than you think. Just as she was about to reveal more, a bright light flooded the interior from outside, cutting through our intimate cocoon. The unmistakable sound of authoritative voices drifted through the air, chilling my blood. We have to move, I said urgently. Now! But as we scrambled to our feet, I felt dread creeping into my heart, a sense that we were not just racing against our foes, but also against something much more profound, tied to family, loyalty, and buried secrets. And as Emily looked back at me with wide, terrified eyes, she whispered words that made my breath catch. I found something out. Something about our family. It changes everything. In that moment, the stakes surged higher, intertwining threads of fate pulling tighter around us. Nothing would ever be the same. I could hardly take a breath as those words hung in the air, heavy with the weight of implications. What do you mean, Emily? I felt Lena's hand clasp even tighter around mine, our shared fear boiling to the surface, feeding upon this new uncertainty. Emily's eyes darted around our dim sanctuary, hyper-aware of every creak and shatter. I'll explain later, she whispered urgently, adrenaline coursing through her. But we need to go. They're coming for me, but they'll find you too. And there's something I need to show you, something that could change everything. The outside world was beginning to swarm with tension, the distant sirens growing louder, blending with the pounding of my heart. I turned to Lena, searching for strength in her familiarity. Can we trust her? With a resolute nod, Lena met my gaze. We don't have many options left. We just need to be careful. It was a thin thread of optimism spun amidst a web of dread, but it anchored us in that moment. Let's move, I urged, my voice vibrating with determination. Emily led us through the fragile theater, the dust swirling around us as if the remnants of our past clung to every surface. There's a back exit, she assured, her fingers gliding over the crumbling brick walls, both guiding us and leading us deeper into shadows where ghosts of the past loomed. Why didn't you tell us sooner? I pressed, my nerves fraying. What's going on with our families? Because I couldn't put you in danger, she murmured, turning to face me, desperation flickering in the depths of her eyes. The truth is more complicated than you know. Our parents, they were involved in something that ties all of this together. And it goes deeper than we could have imagined. The gravity of her confession coiled tightly around my chest, cutting off my air. Each word slipped into place, connecting the fractured pieces of our lives that I had fought so hard to comprehend. So that's why they're after us, I whispered, empathy merging with fury. Their legacy is threatened by our existence. Exactly, she confirmed, urgency spilling over into her voice. And if they find my connection to you, it could mean devastation not just for us, but for everyone involved. We have to stop them before it's too late. Glimmers of fear interwove with excitement, Among the chaos, a pulse of determination ignited within me. We weren't merely fighting for our lives. We were standing against the entire notion of a legacy built upon power and silence, and somehow, we were poised to reclaim our destinies. "Then what are we waiting for?" I said, breath filled with newfound courage. "Let's take the fight to them." Shuffling quickly through the theater's shadows, I could feel adrenaline coursing through me, reframing the weight of fear into ferocity. The sirens grew deafening, an anthem of chaos echoing behind us as we reached the proposed exit. Another door, peeling at its edges, obscured but somehow glimmering with potential. "On three," Emily whispered, edging closer beside me, Lena wrapping her fingers around mine, a tether in the storm. 1, 2, 3. We pushed through together, the door creaking open, a squeal that seemed to reverberate in the stillness outside. Stale air washed over us as we spilled out into the alleyway, the night bristling with uncertainty. The crisp wind whipped against our skin, an unyielding reminder that danger still lurked nearby. A quick scan of our surroundings revealed the darkened street, a short corridor leading into the broader expanse of the city. Somewhere in the clamor behind us, I felt the weight of our choices coalesce at this junction. That moment would define everything from here on out. As we stepped forward, determination steeled within me, and the question of our survival mingled precariously with the haunting uncertainty of our impending confrontation. "Which way?" I asked, heart racing as the debilitating weight of fear surged just beneath the surface. "Follow me," Emily called, resolute. In that space formed the quiet elegy of hope amidst shadows, defined not just by escape, but by the allure of confronting our fates head-on. We rushed through the cobblestone streets, pushing past glimmering storefronts and the muted voices of oblivious pedestrians, as the echoes of sirens faded behind like distant ghosts. My mind raced, piecing together endless revelations with the relentless pursuit we faced. "How do we stop them?" I asked, breathless. "There's a vault," Emily explained, urgency lacing her tone. "A hidden location where evidence is kept, files that could expose their operations. It's a risk, but if we can reach it first, we might just hold the key to dismantling everything." "Then let's go," Lena urged, though a flicker of apprehension crossed her face. "But we have to be smart about it." We sprinted through the alleyways, past old buildings, a tempest propelled forward not just by survival, but by a lion-hearted drive for truth. Each step reaffirmed our Alliancia unity of hope, forged amidst the churning of danger. Just as we crossed an intersection, an unmistakable figure illuminated by streetlights stumbled before us, the billionaire. But something felt different. He appeared worn, the confidence that had initially captivated me now marred with a strain of turbulence. "There you are?" he exclaimed, relief washing over his face. "I was just about to send a search party. Not now." "They're coming for us," I urged, urgency threading through my voice. "We know what's at stake, and we have to stop them." "Then you're on the right path," he said, his eyes narrowing thoughtfully. "But we have to act quickly. Your family's past, it's darker than I could have known. We need to expose it." The air crackled with intensity as our bodies settled into one accord, determined souls united by the pursuit of truth against the web of familial secrets threatening to suffocate us. "Let's find the vault," Lena said, steel forging through her determination, illuminating the space with a flicker of hope. As we surged forward, heedless of the chaos and uncertainty behind us, each step became charged with purpose. It was a sensation I had not felt before. Something powerful radiated within me, as if among the fragments of our struggles lay the potential for something unbreakable. Emily's sister had been a harbinger of opportunity. Somehow, through the bitter constraints of legacy, we'd found an avenue toward reclamation. We didn't know what awaited us at the vault, what truths could shatter our world or rebuild it anew, but we were determined to face it head-on. Together, united in the pursuit of light and hope, we thrust ourselves into the unknown, willing to unveil the shadows that had cloaked our lives for too long, to confront the parts of ourselves we had hidden away in silence. As we approached the location of the vault, determination washed over my soul like spring rain. There's a power in facing our fears, a courage buried deep within our vulnerabilities that beckons us into the light. And perhaps, just perhaps, as the storm roared on the horizon, I understood something monumental. Our pasts would not condemn us, they would liberate us. The threshold of the unknown loomed ahead, but as I exchanged glances with Lena, Emily, and the billionaire, a fire ignited within. I had danced with shadows long enough now. It was time to embrace the truth. In the fight for our lives, to reclaim our stories, I felt an unshakable clarity. We were not defined by our fears, but by our will to face them. We pressed forward, and then, just as we descended deeper into the heart of the labyrinth, a chilling thought flashed through my mind. In this swirling storm of revelation, what awaited us was entirely rewritten. The past fell away, the future beckoned, yet it unfolded at the cost of hope. And it was in that moment I realized something amazing. The true battle wasn't just about the families seeking to silence us. It was about discovering our own strength to resist the silence that had once bound us. As the vault's door loomed before us, we danced into the storm, each heartbeat echoing with resolve, whispering the words I had longed to affirm. We are here to reclaim our truth. In that moment, I understood my dance had taken on a new rhythm, a heartbeat that surged in tandem with the defiance swelling within each of us. The finale awaited, awaiting revelation beneath the tumult of shadows. But whatever lay ahead, I held one inescapable truth close to my heart. We would not be silenced again. And as we flung ourselves toward our destinies, fear transformed into courage. The dance of life, wild and breathtaking, began anew. For it was in this chaos, amidst challenges and trials, that we found not just our stories, but our very essence, defining who we were meant to become. The music played softly in my heart, and beneath the layers of uncertainty, I finally understood. It was a dance of resilience, and we were its brave performers. There remained one question still unraveling in the air: how far would we go to reclaim what was ours? No longer afraid of the shadows that sought to engulf us, we would dance together into the light. And in that final embrace of freedom, I thought maybe, just maybe, we all could find our way back home.